The flickering neon lights along the Las Vegas Strip whispered relentlessly, promising wild moments and dreams that would dissolve before dawn. Inside the Silver Mirage bar, the air was thick with sweet perfume, forced laughter, and bass that shook from the speakers. Olivia Bennett, a white woman with shimmering blonde hair, sat on a high stool, her black silk dress hugging her body and glistening under the dim lights. The cocktail in her hand was already half empty, and her blue eyes sparkled with mischief mixed with fatigue. She had just escaped from a charity gala in New York, where her mother, Catherine Bennett, wanted her to smile for the cameras and play the role of the perfect heiress. But here in the heart of Las Vegas, Olivia felt like she could be anyone or no one at all. Next to her, Sophia Larson, her college best friend, was drunk, waving her phone around like it was a magic wand. "Liv, you said you'd do anything!" Sophia shouted, her voice rising above the music. The girlfriends around them laughed, a few raising their glasses in encouragement. Olivia smirked and leaned back, a rush of adrenaline rising in her chest. "Of course I would," she replied, half challenging, half teasing. But in her head, her mother's icy voice echoed, "Don't disgrace the family, Olivia." She pushed the thought away and took another sip of her cocktail, letting the bitterness of vodka erase the memory of suffocating expectations. At the end of the bar, Marcus Coleman was wiping a glass with slow, meditative movements. He was a broad-shouldered black American man with calm eyes that seemed to have seen through the world's chaos. His black shirt sleeves were rolled up to the elbows, revealing faint scars on his arms, marks of hard labor and long nights building this bar from scratch. Marcus didn't blend into the crowd's chaos. He didn't toss out cheap flirtations or flash charming smiles at patrons. It was that very detachment that caught Olivia's attention, not because he stood out, but because he didn't need to. "Then prove it, Liv," Sophia yelled, pointing at Olivia. "You said you could marry anyone, right? Pick someone." The girls laughed louder. Some began looking around as if searching for a target for the joke. Olivia raised an eyebrow, feeling provoked by their expectant stares. She swirled her cocktail glass, the light catching on the diamond ring on her finger. It was a birthday gift from her mother, but to Olivia, it felt more like an invisible shackle. She hated being controlled, but she'd never known how to break free. Then her gaze landed on Marcus. He was pouring liquor into a shaker, completely unbothered by the noise around him. There was something about him, his composure, his self-control, that felt like a challenge. "Him," Olivia said suddenly, pointing toward Marcus. The cocktail in her hand tilted slightly, spilling a few drops onto the counter. "I'll marry him," Sophia shrieked, nearly falling off her chair. "What?" "The bartender." The girls roared with laughter, some clapping like they were watching a play. Marcus looked up, his gaze sharp but unreadable. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice low and steady, as if completely unaffected by the sudden attention. Olivia stood, her heels clicking on the wooden floor, and walked to the bar. She leaned across the counter, her blonde hair falling over one shoulder, her smile bold and defiant. "Yeah, you can. Marry me." The girls behind her erupted again, but Marcus stared at her, one eyebrow slightly raised. He set the glass down, wiped his hands on a towel, then replied, "Is that a serious proposal, or just a rebellious stunt from a rich girl?" His question made Olivia pause. She wasn't used to being questioned, especially not by a stranger. Her friends were still laughing, but she could feel Marcus's eyes on her, not judgmental, not mocking, just waiting for an honest answer. "What if it's both?" she replied, her voice lower, almost daring. Marcus smiled, but it wasn't an easy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew his worth. "I don't marry drunk strangers even in Vegas," he said. Then he grabbed a napkin, wrote something on it, and slid it over to her. "But if you still remember this in the morning, there's a chapel 2 blocks away. I get off at midnight." Olivia picked up the napkin, her fingers slightly trembling. The chapel address was written in firm, neat handwriting. "He just called you a liar." "Liv," Sophia shouted behind her. Olivia didn't reply. She tucked the napkin into her purse, her heart beating faster than the music. "He thinks I won't do it," she muttered, turning back to her friends. But her eyes lingered on Marcus. He had returned to work as if the moment had meant nothing. But to Olivia, it felt like a door had just opened, a door she wasn't sure she wanted to walk through. That night under the fluorescent lights of the Paradise Glow Chapel, Olivia stood before a fake Elvis in a gaudy white suit. She wore her crumpled black silk dress, her hair tousled by the night wind. Marcus stood beside her, still in his black shirt, his expression calm, but with something more profound in his eyes, like he was searching for something in her. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Olivia smiled, but her smile couldn't hide the hesitation. "As sure as I'm standing here," she replied, though her heart pounded with something far more potent than alcohol. The Elvis impersonator read the vows, his voice echoing over cheap organ music. Olivia felt the warmth of Marcus's hand as he slipped a plastic ring onto her finger, a trinket taken from the chapel's front desk. She looked into his eyes, and everything became strangely clear momentarily. Not the lights' laughter of friends or pressure from family. Just him and her 2 strangers standing before a wild decision. When Elvis declared them husband and wife, Marcus leaned in and kissed her lips. It wasn't fiery or dramatic, but it was enough to make Olivia feel a spark she never knew she craved. They stepped out of the chapel late into the night, Vegas lights flickering as if laughing at them. Olivia clutched Marcus's hand, unsure if it was the alcohol or something else. "So what now?" "Mrs. Coleman," he asked, his tone teasing. Olivia laughed loudly, but deep inside she knew something had shifted. A joke had become real, and she wasn't ready to face it. The early sunlight pierced through the hotel curtains, sharp like an accusation. Olivia Bennett woke up in an unfamiliar bed, her head spinning as if trapped in a whirlwind. She closed her eyes, trying to recall the night before, but only fragmented memories surfaced: the neon lights of Las Vegas, Sophia's laughter, and the deep, warm voice of Marcus Coleman, the black man she had married in a cheap chapel. Her throat was parched, the taste of vodka still lingering, and a dull headache made her groan softly. She rolled over the satin blanket sliding off her shoulder, and her eyes landed on a piece of paper on the nightstand. Olivia sat up, her blonde hair tangled, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. She reached for the paper fingers, trembling slightly as she unfolded it. It was a marriage certificate, stamped with the official seal of the Las Vegas court. 2 names were printed: Olivia Grace Bennett and Marcus Andre Coleman. The date, the signatures, and the witness's name, someone she didn't remember, made everything terrifyingly real. "Oh, God," she whispered, her lips trembling. She tried to laugh, but the sound came out weak, devoid of humor. "This can't be. This can't be." She reread the document, as if the words might vanish if she stared long enough. But they remained cold and undeniable. Last night hadn't been a dream, a prank by Sophia, or a story she could retell over drinks with a dismissive chuckle. Olivia Bennett, daughter of an elite New York family, had married a bartender, a black man she had met only hours earlier. Her heart pounded in her chest, threatening to burst. She clutched her hair, trying to recall more details, but only broken fragments surfaced: Marcus's amused smile when she challenged him, the feeling of the plastic ring sliding onto her finger, and the gentle yet meaningful kiss he gave her under the fluorescent light. Olivia looked around the hotel room. Cheap furniture, a bouquet of plastic flowers on the dresser, and her high heels sprawled across the floor. Her phone, dead from battery, lay beside a black jacket not hers. She frowned, touching the coat, and a memory flickered Marcus draping it over her shoulders as they left the chapel, when the night wind made her shiver. She took a deep breath, inhaling the faint scent of soap and pine from the fabric. Had he brought her here? She couldn't remember. She remembered nothing except his eyes, not judging, but as if trying to see through her. She plugged in her phone, and as the screen lit up, a flood of notifications came in. Most of them were from Sophia. "You did it? Live. Legend. Mrs. Coleman. What now? Call me as soon as you're awake." Olivia skimmed through them, feeling a mix of anger and shame. Sophia had pushed her into this joke, but she was the one who stepped into the chapel, the one who said, "I do." She tapped on a photo message from Sophia, a picture of her and Marcus, in front of the fake Elvis. She was smiling brightly, though her eyes looked dazed, while Marcus stood tall, one hand in his pocket, his expression unreadable. She zoomed in, studying his face. He didn't look like someone caught up in a joke, so why had he agreed? She stood up, pacing the worn hotel carpet, the marriage certificate still clenched. She wanted to call the family lawyer to annul everything before her mother Catherine found out. Catherine would go ballistic, not just because she'd married a stranger, but because Marcus didn't belong in their world. Olivia knew her mother would call him unworthy, not just because he was a bartender, but because of his skin color. The thought made Olivia stop walking. She had never confronted racial prejudice so directly before, but she knew it existed lurking in the whispers of high society. And now she stood at the center of a potential scandal, waiting to explode. But a part of her didn't want to annul it. Not because she loved Marcus, she didn't know him well enough to love, but because something about that night had felt more real than anything she'd ever known. She remembered how Marcus looked at her when she proposed, not with greed or flattery, but with a strange sincerity. He didn't need her or want her money or status. And that scared her, but also intrigued her. She had never met anyone like him. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed looking at the certificate again. She could tear it up, pretend it had never happened. But she didn't. Instead, she folded it carefully and placed it into her purse. Her phone buzzed, a call from Sophia. She hesitated, then answered. "Liv, you awake?" Sophia shouted, her voice still buzzing with excitement. "You married him. I can't believe it." "What now? Have you told your mom yet?" "No," Olivia croaked. "And I don't want to talk about it right now." "Oh, come on, Liv. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You have to tell me everything." Sophia laughed loudly, but Olivia felt her anger rising. "This isn't a game, Sophia," she cut in. "I don't know what's happening, but I need time." Sophia fell silent momentarily, then softly said, "Okay. But are you okay?" Olivia didn't answer right away. She looked at Marcus's jacket still draped on the chair. "I don't know," she said, then ended the call. She stood and walked to the window, gazing at the Vegas Strip now weary under the daylight. She thought about Marcus, the man she barely knew yet enough to make her hesitate. Where was he? What was he thinking about all this? She checked her phone, and he had no texts or calls. Just one unknown number at 3:12 a.m., with no voicemail. Was it him? She wasn't sure, but the thought made her heart race. Olivia knew she needed to face this, but she wasn't ready. Not because of her mother or the scandal, but because something inside her had shifted. This marriage, even if it was a mistake, had awakened a part of her, a part that didn't want to go back to the life she had always known, a life where she was just a puppet in Catherine's hands. She looked at the plastic ring on her finger. She hadn't taken it off. It was cheap, ridiculous, but it was real. And for the first time in her life, Olivia felt a flicker of hope that she could live as her true self, if only for a moment. The Bennett family penthouse sat on the top floor of a tower overlooking Central Park, where the lights of New York sparkled like diamonds, arranged with meticulous precision. Olivia Bennett stepped inside her high heels, clicking softly against the marble floor, though the heavy silence of the home swallowed the sound. She had just returned from Las Vegas, her suitcase still unopened, the cheap plastic ring tucked away in her purse, and the marriage certificate with Marcus Coleman, the black man she had married in a moment of recklessness, weighing on her mind. She hadn't told anyone, not even Sophia, but she knew the secret wouldn't stay hidden for long. Catherine Bennett. Her mother stood by the breakfast table, her elegant figure draped in a pearl-colored silk dress. Her sharp eyes were locked on the tablet in her hands, lips pressed into a thin, stern line. "Sit down, Olivia," Catherine said, her voice low but cold as steel. Olivia hesitated, feeling like a schoolgirl summoned to the principal's office. She pulled out a chair, trying to maintain her composure, but her heart raced as her mother's gaze swept over her. Catherine rotated the tablet and slid it across the table. On the screen was a blurry photo, clearly taken with a phone. Olivia, in her wrinkled black silk dress, standing next to Marcus, in front of a fake Elvis at a Vegas chapel. Standing tall, with an unreadable expression, Marcus looked like someone who didn't belong in her world. "Explain," Catherine said, her voice quiet, but enough to send chills through Olivia. She stared at the photo, her stomach twisting. Someone, probably one of Sophia's friends, had posted it on social media, and now it spread like wildfire. Olivia began, but her voice faltered. She didn't know what to say. The truth that she was drunk, dared into it, and married a black bartender she barely knew, sounded absurd even to her ears. "It was a joke," she finally said, her voice shrinking. "A mistake." Catherine rose, arms folded, her gaze sharp enough to cut. "A mistake with a legal stamp from the Las Vegas court," she replied, tossing a printed copy of the marriage certificate onto the table. Olivia flinched. How had her mother gotten it so quickly? Catherine always had her ways, digging up everything from school grades to deleted messages. "Do you even know his name?" Catherine asked, voice thick with disdain. "Marcus Andre Coleman, a bartender." The word bartender was emphasized like an insult, but Olivia caught the more profound meaning. It wasn't just about where he worked, but about who he was, a black man who would never be accepted in Catherine's elite social circle. Olivia bowed her head, fingers twisting the edge of the tablecloth. She wanted to protest, to say that Marcus was more than just a bartender, that he had a sincerity she'd never seen in anyone from her mother's world. But the words wouldn't come. The pressure of Catherine's glare, the opulence of the room, and the weight of the Bennett name pressed down on her like a vice. "I'll take care of it," Catherine said, calm but commanding. "We'll get the marriage annulled quietly. Not a word in the press. You won't destroy this family's reputation over one foolish night." Olivia looked up, lips pressed tight. She wanted to agree to let her mother erase every trace of Vegas. But Marcus's image flashed in her mind, the way he wiped a glass with near meditative focus, the way he refused to play along with her joke, but still showed up at the chapel, the way he draped his jacket over her shoulders when she shivered in the night wind. He had asked for nothing from her, unlike the men she'd met who always looked for a way to climb higher, using her family name. His sincerity had disarmed her, and now it kept her from nodding. "I'll handle it myself," Olivia said, voice soft but firm. Catherine raised an eyebrow, clearly unaccustomed to defiance. "Handle it yourself," she repeated with a mocking tone. "You think you can manage this scandal without the family attorney? Don't be naive, Olivia." Olivia stood, her hands gripping the back of the chair. "I'm not naive," she said. though even she wasn't sure she believed it. I just need time. Catherine stared at her, as if trying to pierce her soul. Time won't change the fact that you married someone who doesn't belong in our world, she said. A surge of anger rose in Olivia, not just at her mother's words, but the truth behind them. Catherine wasn't just speaking about class, she was talking about race. Olivia had never thought much about racial prejudice. Her life was full of lavish parties and arranged relationships. But now she saw it clearly, in how her mother had emphasized bartender, in how she looked at Marcus's photo like he was a stain. She turned away, walking to the large window, looking down at Central Park, now blurred in the morning mist. She thought of Marcus, of the moment he slid that plastic ring onto her finger of his eyes that held no greed. She thought of herself, the pre-scripted life she'd been living. Charity galas, fake smiles, crushing expectations. For the first time, she wondered if she even wanted to belong to this world. But the thought also frightened her. If she wasn't Olivia Bennett, Catherine's daughter, then who was she? I need to go, Olivia said without looking back. She grabbed her purse, the marriage certificate still tucked inside like a secret waiting to be unraveled. Catherine called after her, voice sharp. Olivia, don't make this worse. But Olivia didn't stop. She walked out of the penthouse feeling like she had escaped prison, but knowing the real battle had only begun. In her bedroom, Olivia sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand. She scrolled through her contacts and paused at an unknown number, the one that had called at 3:12 a.m. in Las Vegas. She wasn't sure it was Marcus, but she hoped it was. Her finger hovered over the call button, her heart pounding. She wanted to hear his voice, to know what he thought about all of this. But she was scared that he would laugh at her, or worse, agree to annul the marriage without hesitation. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and thought of the moment he kissed her at the chapel. Gentle, but enough to make her feel like she truly existed. For the first time, she didn't want to run away from herself. Olivia Bennett's bedroom in the New York penthouse was dark, lit only by the faint glow of streetlights filtering through silk curtains. She sat cross-legged on her bed, the black silk dress from that Las Vegas night still draped over a chair, like a silent reminder of a reckless decision that had changed her life. The phone in her hand lit up, displaying the unknown number from 3:12 a.m. In Las Vegas, the call that hadn't left a message. Olivia took a deep breath, her finger hovering over the screen, her heart pounding as if she were about to leap into an abyss. She knew, or at least hoped, it was Marcus Coleman, the black man she had married in a cheap chapel, the man her mother Catherine had called unworthy. She glanced at the plastic ring still on her finger, the only thing remaining from that night, besides the marriage certificate tucked in her purse. She didn't know why she hadn't taken it off. It was silly and cheap, but every time she touched it, she remembered Marcus's eyes, not judgmental or greedy, just trying to see who she was. The thought of him made her feel both afraid and curious. She feared he might laugh at her or agree to annul the marriage without hesitation, but she also wanted to hear his voice, to understand why he, a stranger, had decided to be part of her wild, impulsive stunt. She pressed call, holding her breath, as the first ring sounded. 1 second, 2 seconds, then Marcus's warm, deep voice answered. Hello. Olivia froze, her throat dry. It's me, she said hoarsely. Olivia Bennett. She heard him shift as if sitting up. Olivia Bennett, he repeated, his tone laced with mild amusement, but no malice. So you're sober now? His question made her smile, if only briefly. There was something about his directness, unfiltered and honest, that made her feel seen. I need to talk, Olivia said carefully, choosing her words. About Vegas. About the paperwork. She heard him exhale a slight but unmistakable sound. You want to annul it, don't you? He said. There was no anger in his voice, just quiet acknowledgement. I figured as much. Olivia bit her lip, caught off guard by his calmness. She had expected an argument or some irritation, but Marcus gave none. I don't want to do it over the phone, he continued. If you'll end this, say it to my face. In person. Olivia frowned, her fingers twisting the edge of the blanket. Why, she asked. Why can't you just sign the papers and mail them? It'd be easier. Marcus was silent for a moment, then replied, Because I was there too, Olivia. I stood before the fake Elvis. I put a ring on your finger and signed my name. I'm not a dress you returned because it didn't fit. His words were sharp, but not angry, more like a reminder that he wasn't just a prop in her game. Olivia felt her face flush. She had never thought of him that way, as someone with feelings with worth, not just a mistake to erase. I didn't mean it like that, she said quickly, her voice trembling. I don't know what to do. My mother wants to annul everything. She said you don't belong in our world. She stopped, realizing she had revealed too much. Marcus let out a short, dry laugh. Your world, he repeated. You mean penthouses, charity galas, and people who only look at someone like me when they want a drink? Olivia was silent, the words stinging like a slap. She wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. She had grown up in a world where people like Marcus were invisible or judged by their skin color and job. You're not being fair, she said at last, though she knew she had no real defense. I'm not like my mother. Marcus sighed. Maybe not. But you're still in it, aren't you? That world you say you don't want to be part of. His words cut like a blade, not out of cruelty, but because they struck a truth she'd been avoiding. Olivia looked around her room. The expensive paintings, the closet full of designer dresses, the photo of her at a gala, with a fake smile like a mask. She wondered if she was really different from her mother, or just pretending to rebel. Who are you, Marcus? She asked softly. I mean, why did you agree to marry me? You didn't need me, my money or anything I had. So why? She heard him shift again, as if stepping outside. I grew up in a rough part of Chicago, he said. My mom worked night shifts. I cared for my little brother. I learned how to survive and build something my bar. I married you, not because I wanted something from you, but because I saw something in your eyes that night. Something real, even if it only lasted a moment. Olivia swallowed hard, tears rising. Something real, she whispered. Marcus was silent for a moment, then answered. Someone who wanted to be free but didn't know how. His words knocked the air out of her. She wanted to say he was wrong, that she didn't need him to figure herself out, but she couldn't because he was right. She had lived 27 years in the glass cage of the Bennett family, and that night in Las Vegas had been the first time she'd truly felt alive. I don't know what to do, she admitted, her voice cracking. I don't know who you are, but I don't want to just erase this. Marcus didn't reply right away. She could hear the wind through the phone, as if he were standing outside beneath the Las Vegas streetlights. Then come here, he said. Not for me, for yourself. If you want to understand this, say it to my face. I'm here. And then he hung up, leaving Olivia in the silence of her room. She stared at the darkened screen, her weary reflection staring back at her. Marcus's words echoed in her mind. Someone who wanted to be free but didn't know how. She thought of her mother, the photo going viral, and the weight of the Bennett name. Then she thought of Marcus, the man who didn't belong in her world, but made her feel like she could be someone else. Someone real. She stood up, opened her purse, and pulled out the marriage certificate. She brushed her fingers over the embossed court seal, her heart pounding. She didn't know what she would do, but she knew she couldn't stay here in this room, in this life. Not one more day. The plane landed in Las Vegas in the afternoon when the harsh sunlight bathed the city in a golden blaze. But all Olivia Bennett felt was a scorching gust of heat slapping her face as she stepped out of the airport. She wore an expensive white blazer, her high heels clicking on the pavement, but inside, she was a tangle of fear and determination. The marriage certificate with Marcus Coleman, the black man she had married in a drunken moment, sat neatly in her purse along with his challenge over the phone. "If you want to understand what this meant, come talk to me." Olivia didn't know exactly what she was looking for. Forgiveness, clarity, or a way out of herself. But she knew she couldn't stay in New York, where her mother Catherine had already planned to erase this mistake. She stood in front of an old apartment building on the outskirts of Las Vegas, where Marcus lived. The walls were chipped and small flower pots hung from the balcony as a quiet effort to bring life to the place. Olivia took a deep breath, clutching her purse strap tightly, her heart pounding. She had grown up in glittering penthouses, where everything was curated to perfection, but everything was raw and honest here, and it left her unsettled. She knocked on the door, the sound echoing through the quiet hallway. When the door opened, Marcus stood in a gray t-shirt and jeans, a kitchen towel slung over his shoulder. He didn't look surprised. He just gave a slight nod. "You came," he said, voice low, and even then, stepped aside to let her in. Marcus's apartment was small, but clean, with an old sofa, a few books stacked messily on shelves, and the faint smell of roasted garlic. Olivia stepped inside, feeling like a stranger in a world she had never known. She looked at Marcus standing by the stove chopping vegetables with quiet focus. "I didn't expect you to be the cooking type," she said, trying to break the silence. Marcus smiled, a flicker of mischief in his eyes. "Learned young. My mom worked night shifts, so I cared for my little brother. If I didn't cook, we were stuck with instant noodles." His words were simple, but Olivia could sense a long story behind them, a life full of struggle she had never come close to. He invited her to sit, placing a plate of simple, fragrant pasta in front of her. "Eat," he said, then sat across from her without pretense. Olivia picked up her fork, struck by how strange it felt to eat in this small apartment, with no servants and no marble dining table. She looked at Marcus, searching for something to say. "Why did you let me in?" she asked. "I thought you'd be angry, or at least, not want to see me." Marcus raised an eyebrow, setting his fork down. "Angry, I don't have time for that. You're here, which means this means something to you. I want to know what that is." His words made Olivia pause. She wasn't used to that kind of directness. In her world, people hid their intentions behind practiced smiles, but Marcus didn't play that game. She looked down, twisting the plastic ring still on her finger. "I don't know," she admitted. "My mother wants to annul the marriage. She said you don't belong with us. I think she's wrong, but I don't know how to prove it." Marcus looked at her, eyes sharp but not judgmental. "You don't need to prove anything to her," he said. "The question is, who do you think I am? A mistake or a real person?" Olivia felt her face grow warm. She thought of that night at the chapel, when Marcus stood beside her, not for money or status, but for a reason she still didn't understand. She thought about how he looked at her, not as a rich girl, but as someone who could be anyone, if only she dared. "I don't think you're a mistake," she said softly but firmly. "But I'm scared. I'm scared that I'm not real enough, like you." Marcus let out a gentle, warm laugh. "You think I'm real because I live like this?" He gestured around the apartment. "I'm just surviving, Olivia. I grew up where people looked at me and only saw my skin color or my job. I built my bar from nothing and learned not to let the world define me. You're scared because you've never had to do that. But you're here, right? That's a start." His words were like a breeze cutting through the fog inside her. Olivia looked around the apartment and realized it wasn't just a living space, but a testament to Marcus's resilience. She thought of her life, where everything was handed to her, along with invisible strings. "My mother would lose her mind if she knew I was here," she said, a faint smile flickering. Marcus shrugged. "She's not here. It's just you and me." They ate in silence for a while, but it wasn't awkward. Olivia felt an unusual connection, as if Marcus wasn't just the man she'd married, but the first person who truly saw her. When she stood to wash the dishes, something she had never done at home, Marcus stopped her. "Leave it," he said. "You're a guest." But Olivia shook her head. "I don't want to be a guest," she replied. And for the first time, she felt like she was doing something real. Before she left, Marcus handed her a business card for his bar, Silver Mirage. "If you want to talk again, I'm there," he said. Olivia took the card, her fingers brushing over the bold print. She looked at him, wanting to say something. "Thank you. I'm sorry." Maybe a promise, but she only nodded. As she exited the apartment, the Las Vegas sunset bathed the street in gold, and Olivia felt a flicker of hope. She didn't know what she would do about the marriage, but she knew she wanted to return. Not to cancel it, but to understand more about Marcus and about herself. The light from the ceiling lamps at the Silver Mirage bar was dim, casting a warm golden glow across the wooden floor. Olivia Bennett stood behind the counter, wearing one of Marcus's gray flannel shirts, far too big for her, with the sleeves rolled up to reveal her pale wrists. Her expensive high heels had been swapped for a pair of old sneakers Marcus had dug out from storage, and her usually styled blonde hair was now tied back in a simple ponytail. She was wiping a glass, her movements clumsy but careful, while Marcus watched from the other end of the bar. It had been 3 days since she agreed to stay in Las Vegas for a week, working at the bar, to understand his world, as Marcus had put it. Olivia still wasn't sure what she was doing, but every time she thought about returning to New York, to the cold penthouse, and Catherine's piercing gaze, she wanted to stay just a little longer. The bar wasn't crowded. A few regulars sat scattered around, their laughter and conversation mingling with the soft jazz playing from the old speakers. Olivia glanced over at Marcus, who was calmly instructing a new employee on how to make a cocktail, his voice low and patient. He wasn't just the bar's owner, the heart of it, the person everyone turned to for advice, comfort, or to be heard. An older woman named Rosa, a regular, had told Olivia that Marcus once paid her son's college tuition when he was about to drop out. "He never brags about it," Rosa said, eyes sparkling. "But around here, everyone knows Marcus is a good man." Olivia smiled, but a strange feeling rose, part admiration, part insecurity. She had never done anything for anyone without expecting recognition. "Slow down," Marcus said, walking over to her and pointing at the glass in her hands. "You're handling it like it just insulted you." Olivia stopped and gave an embarrassed laugh. "I've never done this kind of thing," she admitted. "At home, we had staff." Marcus raised an eyebrow but didn't mock her. "Well, we don't have staff here," he said. "Just people working to live. Take your time. You'll get used to it." He handed her a clean towel, his fingers brushing hers, and Olivia felt a slight warmth spread through her. She lowered her head, focusing on the glass, trying to hide the blush on her cheeks. That evening, when the bar was quieter, Marcus assigned her to organize the bottles in the storage room. She worked in the small space filled with the scent of wood and wine, the dim light casting long shadows on dusty shelves. She thought about her life in New York, the glamorous parties, designer gowns, the fake smiles to please her mother, and the elite. Here no one cared that she was Olivia Bennett. No one asked about her family or her wealth. But they looked at her, and that made her feel comforted and uneasy. She feared she wasn't good enough, not honest enough like Marcus and the people here who lived without masks. One regular, a middle-aged man named Javier, entered the storage room to grab a case of beer. He saw Olivia and smiled warmly. "You're Marcus's wife, right?" he asked. Olivia jumped, nearly dropping a bottle. I guess so," she replied awkwardly. Javier laughed. "He doesn't say much, but I see how he looks at you. You're special." Olivia gave a faint smile, unsure how to respond. She was Marcus's wife, but only on paper. So why did Javier's words make her heart beat faster? At the end of the shift, Olivia sat with Marcus at a small table in the corner of the bar, 2 glasses of lemonade between them. She was tired, but it was satisfying, as if she had done something meaningful. "You did good today," Marcus said, his eyes reflecting a hint of pride. Olivia shrugged. "I spilled a drink and misarranged 3 bottles of whiskey." Marcus chuckled, a deep, warm sound that made her smile without meaning to. "It's a start," he said. "Nobody's born knowing everything." Olivia looked at him, her expression more serious now. "How do you do it?" she asked. "Live like this? Help people, even when life's been hard on you?" Marcus took a sip of his drink, his gaze distant. "I grew up in a place where people looked at me and saw nothing but a black kid with no future," he said. "But my mom taught me that my worth isn't defined by what others think. I built this bar to earn a living and create a place where people feel welcome. You saw Rosa, Javier. They're not just customers, they're family." His words left Olivia quiet. She thinks about her mother, how Catherine looks at Marcus like he is a stain, simply because he doesn't belong in high society because of his skin color. She thought about herself, how she had lived trying to please others, never asking what she truly wanted. "I don't know who I am without my family," she said, voice growing softer. "I don't know if I can be like you." Marcus looked at her eyes, gentle but firm. "You don't have to be like me," he said. "You just have to be Olivia, not the Bennett heiress, not my wife on paper. Just you." His words were like a beam of light cutting through the fog in her mind. Olivia looked down at her drink, her fingers brushing the plastic ring. She wanted to ask him so much more about his life, about why he had let her into this world. But her phone buzzed. A message from Sophia. "Liv, where are you? Your mom is losing her mind. Text me back now." Olivia stared at the screen, feeling the weight of New York clawing back. She turned the phone off and slid it aside. "I want to stay," she said, looking at Marcus. "Just for a while, to understand more." Marcus nodded, not pushing further. "You've got 1 week," he said. "After that, you decide where to go." Olivia smiled truly for the first time in days. She didn't know what the week would bring, but as she looked at Marcus, she knew she was in the right place, not to escape, but to begin discovering who she was. On Thursday night, the Silver Mirage bar was busier than usual. The clinking of glasses mingled with laughter and blues music drifting from the old speakers. Wearing one of Marcus Coleman's rolled-up flannel shirts, Olivia Bennett moved between tables with a tray of lemonades and beers for the regulars. Her blonde hair was tied high, a few strands falling across her forehead, and she smiled at Rosa, who had just told a funny story about her grandson. 5 days in Las Vegas had made Olivia feel like she belonged here, if only just a little. She liked the ache in her legs after a long shift, the way Marcus nodded approvingly when she shelved the liquor correctly, and the stories from the customers, people who lived openly hiding neither their joy nor pain. But that peace shattered when the bar door swung open, and Sophia Larson entered, her red heels clicking sharply on the wooden floor. With her wavy brown hair and tight-fitting cocktail dress, Sophia looked like she had just stepped out of a Manhattan party. Heads turned, but she fixed her eyes only on Olivia, her expression a mix of worry and fury. "Liv, what the hell are you doing?" Sophia's voice cut through the music. Olivia froze the tray in her hands, trembling slightly. She hadn't expected Sophia to fly to Las Vegas, Not after all the unanswered messages and declined calls. "I'm working," Olivia replied, trying to keep her voice calm even though her heart raced. She set the tray down, wiped her hands on a towel, and walked toward Sophia. "What are you doing here?" Sophia crossed her arms, eyes sweeping over Olivia's oversized flannel shirt and worn sneakers. "Working you." Olivia Bennett, wiping tables in some rundown bar. "Your mother is losing her mind, Liv. She thinks you've been kidnapped or something. I came to bring you home." Anger surged through Olivia, not just at Sophia's words, but at how she said rundown bar, as if this place, Marcus's place, Rosa's, Javier's, wasn't worthy of existing. "I don't need saving," Olivia said, her voice low but firm. "I'm here because I want to be." Sophia laughed, the sound sharp like shattering glass. "Because of him, right? That black bartender you married while drunk. Come on, Liv. You can't be serious. He wants your money or a ticket into high society." The words hit like a punch, and Olivia took a step back. She looked around and realized a few regulars were listening, eyes curious but not intervening. Marcus, standing behind the bar, had stopped mixing drinks. His eyes locked on Sophia, but he said nothing. Olivia's face burned with both embarrassment and rage. "He's not like that," she said, trembling. "You don't know him, Sophia. He's more real than anyone in our world." Sophia raised an eyebrow and stepped closer, her voice dropping into a whisper. "Real, Liv. Wake up. A guy like him will never be accepted in New York. Do you think your mom will let you parade him around galas? Think our friends will clap when you introduce your bartender husband? You're ruining yourself, and I won't just watch it happen." Olivia clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms. She wanted to scream to tell Sophia she didn't care about galas or fake friends, but part of her was still afraid. Afraid Sophia was right, that her world would never accept Marcus, and that she wasn't strong enough to face that. Before she could respond, Marcus stepped out from behind the bar, his stride calm but commanding. "Ms. Larson, right?" he said, voice low and steady. Sophia turned to him briefly, caught off guard. "I'm Marcus Coleman," he continued, "owner of this bar, not that bartender. And I don't want money or a pass into your world. I'm here because I chose this place, these people." He gestured toward Rosa and Javier, who looked at him respectfully. Sophia pressed her lips together but didn't back down. Touching, she said, voice laced with sarcasm, "But Olivia doesn't belong here. She's a Bennett. She can't throw it all away for a test drive." Marcus stared directly at her, gaze sharp. "You think I asked her to give something up? I didn't ask her to abandon anything except living a lie. Ask her if she's happy here." Olivia felt his gaze turn to her, and she knew this was the moment she had to speak. She took a deep breath, her voice shaking but resolute. "I am happy, Sophia. I feel like I'm living for the first time, not performing. Marcus doesn't want anything from me. And that's what you don't understand, because in our world, everyone wants something." Sophia looked at her, eyes flickering between anger and hurt. "You're going to regret this, Liv," she said, then turned and walked out of the bar, leaving behind a heavy silence. As the door closed, Olivia felt her knees go weak. She sank into a nearby chair, covering her face with her hands. Marcus came over, not touching her, just standing near, steady like an anchor. "You okay?" he asked. Olivia shook her head, tears threatening. "I've never said anything like that to her before," she whispered. "But she's wrong. About you. About all of this." Marcus sat across from her, his gaze gentle but unyielding. "I've heard words like hers before," he said. "When I opened this bar, people said I was crazy, that a black guy like me couldn't compete with the big places. They looked at me like your friend did, like I didn't belong. But I stayed because I know my worth." Olivia looked at him, heart aching with both admiration and pain. "Why didn't you give up?" she asked. Marcus smiled faintly. "Because giving up means letting them win, and I won't give them that power." His words lit something in her, a fire she didn't know she had. She wiped her tears and stood. "I don't want to give up," she said. "I want to stay Marcus, not just for a week. Longer." Marcus looked at her with a flicker of surprise, then nodded. "Then stay," he said. "But not for me, for you." Olivia smiled for the first time, feeling like she wasn't just a Bennett girl, but someone who could define herself. Night fell over Las Vegas, and the neon lights outside the Silver Mirage bar flickered like lost stars. Olivia Bennett sat on the worn sofa in Marcus Coleman's small apartment, her hands tired after a long shift at the bar. The gray flannel shirt she'd borrowed from Marcus still carried the faint scent of pine wood, and she felt an unusual comfort here, in this humble space, far removed from the pressures of her New York penthouse. A week of working at the bar had changed her, not just how she wiped tables or mixed lemonade, but also how she saw herself. But tonight, a surprising discovery sent her heart pounding, like she was standing at a crossroads with no way back. Olivia had been searching for a clean pillow in the drawer under the sofa, when her fingers brushed against a folded, slightly yellowed piece of paper. She opened it, her breath catching when she saw their marriage certificate, the official Las Vegas seal with her name and Marcus's printed clearly, Olivia Grace Bennett and Marcus Andre Coleman. She stared at the paper, and memories of that fateful night at the chapel came flooding back, the flickering fluorescent lights, Marcus's wry smile, and that gentle but meaningful kiss. She had once thought the document was a joke, a mistake, but now, holding it, it carried a different weight. Not a burden, but a promise not yet defined. Marcus stepped out from the small room he used as his office with a cup of coffee. He stopped when he saw Olivia sitting at the kitchen table, the certificate in front of her. "I found it," she said, her voice quiet but open. Marcus nodded, setting the cup down, his expression calm but attentive. "I know," he replied, sitting across from her. "I kept it since the first day you gave it to me when you came here." Olivia frowned slightly, her fingers brushing over the legal seal. "I thought letting you keep it would make things easier," she admitted, "but now I'm not so sure. I don't want to erase it." Marcus looked at her, his eyes deep and searching, as if trying to read what she wasn't saying out loud. "What do you think this paper is?" he asked. "A contract, a mistake, or something else?" Olivia bit her lip, tears threatening. She thought about the past few days, how Marcus had taught her to stack bottles, how he listened to the stories of his regulars, how he never once asked her to be anyone but herself. "I used to think it was a joke," she said, trembling. "But now, being here with you, I think it could be a beginning. Something real." Her words made Marcus pause. He reached for the paper, his fingers sliding across both signatures. Then in one slow movement, he tore it in half, then again, until the fragments scattered across the table. Olivia's mouth fell open, her heart racing. "What are you doing?" she asked, a mix of shock and panic. Marcus met her eyes, calm but unwavering. "I don't need this paper to know whether this is real," he said. "I'm not waiting on a contract, Olivia. I'm waiting on you, the real you. Not the girl who walked into my bar with a dare and champagne on her lips." Tears slipped down Olivia's cheeks, not from sadness, but because she realized he was right. Their marriage began as a joke, but it became something more profound these days together. She thought about Sophia and her warnings that Marcus didn't belong in her world. She thought about her mother, Catherine, and the pressure to live up to the Bennett name. But here in this small apartment with torn pieces of paper on the table, she felt free for the first time in her life. I'm scared, she whispered, wiping her tears. Scared that I'm not worthy of this, of you. I don't know who I am without that world. Marcus leaned forward, never breaking eye contact. You think I'm not scared, he said. When I opened this bar, I was terrified. Scared they were right when they said a black man like me couldn't make it. But I learned to face that fear, because if I didn't, I'd never know how far I could go. You don't need to know who you are right now. You need to start. His words were like wind clearing the fog in her mind. Olivia looked at the torn paper, then at Marcus, the man who had stood beside her in that chapel, not for money or status, but because of something he saw in her. I want to stay, she said, her voice more certain now. Not just to understand you, but to understand me. I want this to be real. Marcus smiled, a rare but warm smile that made her heart race. Then make it real, he said. Not for me, for you. They sat in silence, surrounded by the soft ticking of the clock and the faint glow of streetlights filtering through the window. Olivia felt a new connection forming between them, not based on paperwork or drunken vows, but on the sincerity they were slowly building together. She thought of her mother Sophia and the high society world still waiting for her in New York. But for the first time, she didn't feel pressured to return. She wanted to be here with Marcus, with herself, even if it meant facing everything she had once run from. Olivia gently touched his hand as Marcus stood to clear his coffee mug. Thank you, she said, her voice soft but meaningful. Marcus looked at her with a flicker of surprise, then nodded. You don't need to thank me, he said. Just keep showing up. Olivia smiled. And in that moment, she knew she had found something more valuable than any piece of jewelry or title, a chance to live truthfully. The Bennett family penthouse in New York sparkled beneath the crystal chandelier, but the atmosphere was as cold as a winter day. Olivia Bennett stood at the entrance, a thin coat draped over the simple button-down shirt she'd worn in Las Vegas sneakers in place of stilettos. 1 week working at Marcus Coleman's Silver Mirage bar had changed her, not just her appearance, but the way she viewed the world and herself. She had returned to New York, not to apologize or surrender, but to confront her mother, Catherine, and declare her decision she would no longer live out the family's script. The marriage certificate, now torn by Marcus's hands, was no longer a shackle. But what she had learned from him about authenticity, about self-worth, had given her the strength to walk through this house one final time. Catherine Bennett sat at the long dining table, a glass of red wine in her hand, her gaze as sharp as a blade when Olivia walked in. On the table lay a folder, copies of the marriage certificate, a tabloid article about Olivia's scandal, and an annulment contract, already drafted by the family lawyer. So you finally came back, Catherine said, her voice low but icy. Sit down. We need to resolve this before it destroys the family's reputation. Olivia didn't sit. She stood tall, her hands in her coat pockets, meeting her mother's gaze without flinching. I'm not here to resolve this your way, she said, voice firm but not hostile. I'm here to tell the truth. Catherine raised an eyebrow, clearly not used to being challenged. The truth, she repeated with a cutting sneer. The truth is, you married some black bartender while drunk and made a mockery of yourself in front of all New York. What do you call that? Rebellion or stupidity? Her words were like a blade, but Olivia didn't retreat. She thought of Marcus, how he had faced prejudice with quiet strength, and knew she couldn't stay silent anymore. His name is Marcus Coleman, Olivia said clearly. He's not some bartender. He's the owner of his bar, a man who built everything from nothing, a man who taught me that worth isn't about status or wealth. Catherine set her glass down and stood, her eyes piercing. You're speaking like a foolish child, she said. That man doesn't belong in our world. Do you think you can parade him around at charity galas? Introduce him to the foundation board. They'll laugh in your face and you'll bring down this family." A wave of anger rose in Olivia, not just at the words, but the truth behind them. Catherine wasn't just talking about class. She was talking about color, the unspoken prejudice she and her social circle wore like a badge of pride. "I don't care about galas," Olivia said, shaking but strong. "I've spent 27 years trying to please you and uphold this family's name, and I was never happy. I don't want to be your puppet anymore." Catherine stepped closer, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes before they hardened again. "You think walking away from this family will make you happy?" she asked. "What will your life be then? Living in some shabby Las Vegas apartment wiping tables for that man? You're a Bennett. You can't just throw away your legacy." Olivia took a deep breath, remembering the bar, Rosa's stories about her grandson Javier, laughing when she poured the wrong beer, and Marcus looking at her with nothing but honesty. "Your legacy is a cage," she said, her voice cracking. "I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing something real. Marcus never asked me to give anything up, but he showed me who I could be if I dared, and you never did that for me." Catherine froze. For a moment, Olivia saw something shift in her mother's eyes. Pain, perhaps, as if she were seeing her daughter as a person for the first time, not an asset. "You're not thinking clearly," Catherine said, her voice softer now, but still clinging to control. "You'll regret this when the whole world turns its back on you." Olivia stepped forward, her gaze steady. "If that world won't accept me because I choose to live honestly, then I don't need it," she said. "I'm resigning from the foundation. I'm leaving this house. I don't know my future, but at least it will be mine." Catherine was silent, the wine glass trembling slightly in her hand. Olivia braced herself for the storm. An insult, a threat, maybe even a slap, but none came. Catherine stared at her, torn between fury and something that looked like regret. "You're not the daughter I raised," she finally said, almost in a whisper. Olivia gave a sad smile. "Maybe I never was," she replied. Then she turned and walked out of the penthouse. No suitcase, no glance back. Just a wallet, a coat, and a heart finally free. As the elevator doors closed, Olivia felt she had shed a weight she'd carried her entire life. She thought of Marcus, his small apartment, the bar where she had learned to wipe glasses and truly listen. She thought of Sophia, of the warnings that she would regret all of this. But she didn't. Olivia felt like she was walking the right path for the first time, even if it was uncertain. She pulled out her phone and sent Marcus a message. "I did it. I left home. Where do I go now?" The message was sent, and when the elevator doors opened onto the streets of New York, the city lights shimmered like a new promise. Morning in Las Vegas carried a rare cool breeze across the desert heat. Olivia Bennett stood in front of the Silver Mirage bar, holding a small chalkboard that listed today's specials, discounted craft beers, and a new nacho recipe, her suggestion. She wore a black t-shirt with the bar's logo, her blonde hair tied low, and sneakers that now felt at home on the bar's wooden floors. It had been 2 weeks since she walked away from the Bennett penthouse in New York, gave up her position at the family's charity foundation, and told her mother, Catherine, she would live on her terms. The last message she'd sent Marcus, "I did it. I left home. Where do I go now?" had been met with a simple reply. "Come back. We'll figure it out." And she had. She returned to Las Vegas, not as a guest, but as a part of the life Marcus had built. Marcus's small apartment was now where Olivia called home, at least for now. She slept on the worn-out sofa, refusing his offer to take the bed, and woke each morning to the smell of coffee he brewed and blues music humming from the radio. She worked at Silver Mirage, not just wiping tables or mixing lemonade anymore, but learning how to manage inventory place orders and talk to regulars like Rosa and Javier. She liked how they called her Live instead of Miss Bennett, how they shared stories about life debts, simple birthdays, small but honest dreams. Here she didn't need to perform. She didn't need to hide. And for the first time, she felt like she was living, truly living. One evening after closing, Olivia and Marcus sat at the table in the alley behind the bar, beneath strings of old lantern lights he had hung long ago. They shared a plate of fries, the golden glow highlighting Marcus's sharp features and thoughtful eyes. Olivia took a sip of beer and looked at him. "You never told me," she said, gently, "about your dream. You built this bar. But what comes after that?" Marcus paused, tracing the rim of his glass with one finger. He rarely talked about himself, letting Olivia or the customers take center stage. But tonight, beneath those soft lights, he opened up. "I want to open a community center," he said, his voice low, but filled with conviction. "A place for kids, like the ones in the neighborhood I grew up in. Black kids, brown kids told by the world they don't have a shot. I want to teach them skills books and a space to dream without being laughed at." Olivia stared at him, heart racing. She had never seen Marcus speak with so much emotion. "Why haven't you done it?" she asked. Marcus gave a quiet laugh, eyes distant. "Money. Time. And part of me is scared it'll fail. Just like they said this bar would fail. But I've never let go of the idea." Olivia set her glass down and leaned toward him. "You will do it," she said firmly. "And I want to help. I don't have much. I walked away from my family's account, but I can learn work and stand beside you." Marcus looked at her, surprised, then smiled that rare warm smile that made her believe anything was possible. "You don't have to do that, Liv," he said. "This is my dream." Olivia shook her head. "Now it's ours," she replied. And for the first time, it felt like they weren't just two people bound by a torn piece of paper, but two people building toward a shared future. In the following days, Olivia began researching how to start a community center. She jotted down ideas in a small notebook, asked Rosa about local tutoring programs, and secretly searched for grants on her phone when Marcus wasn't looking. She also took on more responsibilities at the bar, covering night shifts, so Marcus could rest. When she had to fly back to New York to finalize legal paperwork for the foundation, they began calling each other every night. Those late-night calls stretched for hours, from silly talks about new cocktail recipes to deeper conversations about life. "Why do you always answer when I call Olivia?" asked once, half joking. Marcus chuckled on the line. "Because I like hearing you talk, Liv. Especially when you're not trying to be someone you're not." His words silenced her. She looked around the temporary hotel suite in New York, luxurious but hollow, like the life she used to live. "I don't know if I have the strength to keep doing this," she confessed. "My mom, Sophia. That whole world, they make me feel like I'm wrong." Marcus's voice came through steady and calm. "They're wrong, Liv. You're finding your way. That's not a weakness. That's courage." Olivia smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks. She thought of Marcus, the bar, the dream of the community center. And she knew she'd return to Las Vegas, not just for him, but for herself. One afternoon, when Olivia finally returned to Silver Mirage from her New York trip, she found Marcus painting a back wall in the storage room. He wore an old t-shirt, paint smudged on his arms, and his face lit up when he saw her. "You're back," he said, putting the brush down. Olivia smiled and dropped her bag onto the floor. "Home," she said, and the word rolled out naturally, as if she'd always belonged here. Marcus walked over, touching her shoulder gently. "You okay?" he asked. Olivia nodded, locking eyes with him. "Better than okay," she said. I want to begin, Marcus, with the bar, with the center, with us. He looked at her tender, resolute. Then let's begin, he said. And they both smiled, ready to face whatever came next together. The Las Vegas sunset cast a golden-orange glow across the street outside the Silver Mirage bar, where Olivia Bennett stood, leaning against the doorway, phone in hand. She wore a black t-shirt with the bar's logo, her blonde hair tied low, and her blue eyes shimmering with newfound determination. It had been 3 weeks since she walked away from the Bennett penthouse in New York, gave up the family legacy, and chose to live in Las Vegas with Marcus Coleman, the black man, who had taught her the meaning of authenticity. Her days were now filled with bar shifts, late-night conversations with Marcus under string lights, and plans for the community center they dreamed of building together. But today, Olivia was about to do something she had never dared go public with her love regardless of the consequences. She opened Instagram, the account once filled with gala photos and luxury vacations now stripped down to just a few posts from the bar, a cocktail she mixed herself a corner table under lantern lights. She selected a photo of Marcus from last week. He stood outside the bar, fixing a wooden sign, sunlight casting a warm glow on his rare, gentle smile. Olivia took a deep breath, her fingers moving across the screen as she typed the caption, "He taught me to love things I never knew I needed, and now I want nothing else." She hit post, her heart pounding like she'd just dropped a bomb on her old world. Within minutes, her phone vibrated nonstop. Notifications flooded in, likes, comments, DMs. Old friends from New York, the ones who used to party with her and Sophia, left shocked comments. "You serious, Liv? This a joke, right?" Some were harsher. "You've fallen this far." But then came words of support from Silver Mirage regulars. Rosa wrote, "He's the best man I know." "Congrats, Liv," Javier commented. "Welcome to the family." Olivia smiled, though her heart tightened when she saw a message from Sophia. "You're insane, Liv. Your mother's going to lose it. Take the post down before it's too late." And then came a call from Catherine, the first, since that final confrontation in the penthouse. Olivia stared at the screen, but didn't pick up. She shoved the phone into her pocket and walked back into the bar. Marcus stood behind the counter mixing a mojito for a customer. His brow lifted in concern when he saw the tension in Olivia's face. "You okay?" he asked, setting the glass down. Olivia climbed onto a stool at the bar and exhaled. "I just posted a picture of you on Instagram," she said, half teasing, half anxious, with a pretty cheesy caption. Marcus raised an eyebrow, his signature dry smile tugging at his lips. "How cheesy are we talking?" Olivia handed him the phone and read the caption aloud. Marcus chuckled his deep laugh, drawing a few glances from nearby customers. "You know how to stir things up," he said, though his eyes were gentle, as if he understood the weight of what she'd done. Olivia pushed the phone toward him so he could read the comments. "They think I've lost my mind," she murmured. "Sophia says my mom's going to flip. And maybe she's right. But I don't want to hide anymore, Marcus. I want them to know I'm happy with you with this place." Marcus skimmed the comments, his eyes tightening at some cruel words, but he handed the phone back calmly. "You don't owe them anything," he said. "They're not living your life." Olivia looked at him, remembering the stories he had shared of the neighborhood he grew up in, the stares he'd gotten for his skin and job, how he built Silver Mirage despite all the judgment. "You already did it," she said. "You lived true, even when the world told you not to. I want that. But I'm scared. Scared they're right, that I'm not strong enough to handle all this." Marcus leaned across the bar, eyes locked on hers. "They're not right, Liv. You're standing here, working, living, loving. That's strength. You don't need their approval, just your own." His words felt like wind blowing away the fear clouding her heart. Olivia smiled, tears glimmering, but refusing to fall. She pulled out her phone and read one comment from a stranger. "You look happy. Congratulations to you both." "I like this one," she said softly. Marcus laughed, shaking his head. "You're trouble," he said, but his voice was affectionate. They returned to their shift, Olivia carrying trays of beer, Marcus mixing drinks, but something had changed between them. That photo, that caption had erased an invisible wall. They were closer now. That night at Marcus's apartment, Olivia sat on the sofa scrolling through new comments. A gossip site had picked up the story running the headline, "Heiress gone rogue socialite falls for bartender." She laughed and handed the phone to Marcus, who read a book across from her. "Gone rogue, huh?" she teased. Marcus glanced at it and shrugged. "They need to sell headlines. Let them say what they want. You know the truth." Olivia nodded and powered off her phone. "The truth is, I'm happy," she said, "and I don't want to hide that." Marcus set the book aside and looked at her. "You sure you're okay being seen like this?" he asked, his tone serious. "Not just with me, but with all of it. The bar, this life." Olivia thought of New York, her mother Sophia, and all the eyes that would forever judge her. Then she thought of Marcus, how he held her hand after her first shaky shift, the dream they shared of building something more. "I've never been seen like this before," she said, lighting up, "and I want to keep being seen." Marcus smiled, stood, and gently touched her shoulder. "Then keep going," he said. And they both laughed, knowing they had chosen each other no matter what the world said. Las Vegas still shimmered under neon lights, but Olivia Bennett walked down the familiar street with a new kind of ease. No more high heels or silk gowns, just a simple white cotton dress, her blonde hair flowing naturally, and her hand clasped tightly in Marcus Coleman's. The black man beside her in a navy shirt and jeans walked with quiet strength, his eyes glowing under the sunset. They were headed to the Paradise Glow Chapel, where months ago they had exchanged vows in a drunken haze under fluorescent lights and before a fake Elvis. But today, they were returning not to fix a mistake, but to renew a promise, this time with complete sincerity. The faint scent of old flowers and the polish of clean wooden floors inside the chapel stirred memories of that fateful night. The red velvet curtain behind the altar still hung with artificial stained glass, casting golden streaks across the floor. But Olivia was no longer the impulsive girl who laughed to mask her fear. She stood in the center of the room, holding Marcus's hand, his gaze locked with hers. "What do you remember about that night?" he asked, voice warm and low, a fleeting smile playing at his lips. Olivia chuckled and shook her head. "I called you the mystery man, and almost tripped while reading our vows," she said. "And you asked if I was serious." "I didn't answer then." She stepped closer, her gaze now steady. "But I'm serious now." Marcus nodded, his eyes soft but deep. "I remember you looked at me like you wanted to run, but you stayed," he said. "And I thought if you were brave enough to stand there, maybe you were brave enough to do this." Olivia felt her heart pounding, not from fear, but from a pure, quiet joy. She thought of their journey from a joke marriage at Silver Mirage to long work shifts, the confrontation with her mother Catherine, and the Instagram post that made their love public. Every step had been a challenge, but also a brick laid in the foundation of what they were building. She pulled a small box from her pocket, revealing 2 simple silver rings. "No diamonds. It's just a clean, honest design. I bought these last week," she said, trembling slightly. "They're not flashy, but they're real, like us." Surprised, Marcus looked at the rings, gently picked one up, and ran his finger over its smooth surface. "Perfect," he said, sliding it onto her finger. Olivia did the same, feeling the light, but the steady weight of the ring on his hand. They didn't need witnesses. They didn't need papers. Their vows had already been written in the days they shared in honesty and commitment. Liv, Marcus said, taking her hands, "I married you once as a joke. But I'm standing here today because I choose you, not the Bennett heiress, not the tabloid headline, but you. The woman who rose from fear and did everything for real." Tears streamed down Olivia's cheeks, but she smiled. "And I choose you," she replied. "The man who taught me that love means believing in myself. I promise to stand beside you through every struggle, through the dream of the community center, through everything." They embraced, not kissing yet, just standing there, feeling the warmth and presence of each other, as if time itself had stopped. They left the chapel as night fell, the lights of Vegas flickering like a wordless song. On the rooftop of Marcus's building, where they had once shared fries under lantern lights, Olivia stood barefoot, her white dress fluttering in the breeze. Marcus stepped out, holding a small black box, his expression a mix of tenderness and nerves. "You okay?" he asked, standing beside her. Olivia nodded, her heartbeat racing. "More than okay," she said, looking at him with a love she never knew she had. Marcus dropped to one knee, not with fanfare, just quietly, sincerely the way he always was. He opened the box to reveal a simple gold ring, no jewel, but glowing beneath the lights. "I married you once in a moment," he said, his voice deep and steady. "But I want to marry you again every day because you are home. Will you? Live." Olivia knelt before him, tears streaming down her face, but her smile radiant. "Yes," she whispered, sliding the ring onto his finger. They embraced, foreheads touching, breaths merging, and this time they kissed. A deep, lasting kiss full of promise and hope. Below them, Las Vegas buzzed on in its noisy rhythm. But on that rooftop, there was only the quiet of love. Olivia thought of her mother Sophia and all the judging eyes that once tried to define them by class, race, and choice. But she no longer felt fear. She had found a new world, not in the neon lights, but in Marcus's eyes, the dream they now shared in her heart. They stood hand in hand, ready to face anything, because their love wasn't a joke. It was an eternal promise, one they chose repeatedly every day.